Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. Hope you're all having a fantastic day. So today is an exciting day for me because we are putting tires on the KRX. Yep, we're putting new tires even though these ones are not worn off. So before I show you the tire, let's talk about it for just a minute. So first of all, why am I changing the tires out? A couple reasons honestly. One, I really like these tires, but they're just not big enough. And as you can see the Pioneer in the background, I want bigger tires. Number two is probably 4 or 5 years now I've had on my bucket list to go to MOAB. So this year I'm really hoping to make it happen. So as I set the KRX up, I'm trying to get everything ready to go for MOAB when I go in the fall. But I want to get some miles on the KRX before I go to MOAB. Now I currently have just under 500 miles on it. It's like 490 something miles. So it's a good time to change the tires out. In the last video, we changed out the stock tender springs to all things UTV, and I am sitting almost perfect. My front end is sitting at 15 inches, and my back is at 14.5. Now, yes, I know that's a ½ inch tall, but that's why I want it, because it's my machine. So the next thing I need to do is put tires on there. Now, what tires am I gonna run? I'll show you those here in a second, just hold on. Tires are kind of a personal thing in my eyes. Everyone has their own opinion on tires, what they want to run, what they like, what they don't like, and it's also where you live. So out here in Arizona where I live, these carnivores are really good up north. But one thing we do out here is we drive a lot of hard pack or asphalt. So if you look at the Pioneer, well, that's a System 3 350. It's a very truck tire-ish, very squared off. Got a little bit of a crown, but it's a good long-lasting tire. I have almost 2,000 miles on those tires and they're probably 70% tread, honestly. But those aren't what I want for MOAB. Now these carnivores would be great for MOAB. I need a little bit more ground clearance and I need a little bit more front and rear. You know, I want the tires to stick out so my approach and approach angle are just that much better. So what I end up going with, let me show you. Right here. I know you can't hardly see it. So this is a STI X Comp 35-inch tall tire. Yep, that's right. I'm gonna put 35s in the KRX with no portals. Now, let's talk about that for a second. Yeah, 35s. It's not really a 35. So on the Pioneer, I'm running 35s on the System 3s. But at 18 PSI, those things only measure out at 34.5 inches. They're maxed out. Now these X comps, there's no specs online, and it's really weird when you go to the STI website. So what does it measure out at? Well, I'll show you. Here's the spare tire I have for the KRX. I've already got mounted up. I wanted to do some testing. So at 10 pounds of pressure in this tire, it measures at 33 7/8 inches. That's 1 1/8 inches short from 35 inches. Now, as you know, most tires, especially side-by-side tires, run small. So let's look at these two tires in comparison. This is the System 3 350. This is the STI X Comp, both in the 35. You can see the System 3 is just a little bit taller. I think it has about 14 pounds of pressure in it. But the reason I went with these for the KRX is look at the tread gap or the voids compared to the System 3. This is much more of an all-terrain tire, where this is a little bit all-terrain, a little bit mud-terrain, kind of like a crossbreed. I really like the look of this tire. So I like the bigger voids and the gap you can get with these when I'm climbing some rocks. Now let's look at the sidewall tread. So here's the System 3. I'm trying to be straight up and down here. Here is the edge of the tire, the bulge. As you can see, it's out here. It comes in, it's got a nice little grip to the sidewall. As you can see, it comes in right here. So this, in my eyes, for MOAB or serious rock crawling, is a good way to get pinch flat. Now these are some pretty heavy duty tires. And like I said, this tire probably has 1,500, 1,800 miles on it. So you're starting to see some wear, but it's also a little more crowned. The STI X Comp does not have as large of a crown, if you notice that. It still has a crown, but it's a little bit more of a flat profile. Also, when you come out here to the sidewall, here's my sidewall down there, but look, I have some grip here. So I like that there's more sidewall bite on these tires. And then also, when you come down here to the rim, and I know that I have beadlocks, there's a nice little rim protector. Now, that also makes it a little bit more difficult to mount. Let's go ahead, let's get the KRX pulled in, let's get jacked up on jack stands, get the tires off, and let's get this stuff changed. So changing beadlocks at home is actually pretty easy. You don't really need any special tools, dependent. So first step is get tires off, just like I did. The second step is you gotta get the air out of the tire. Now there's different ways you can do that, but you wanna make sure you do that before you remove the locking ring, because if not, you could end up cracking it or warping it or whatever, because it is just cast. So what I did is I have a tool to pull a valve stem. And of course, when I need it, I can't find it. My kids, they have bikes and they usually get flats. So I put the slime tires in them. The slime tires have a lid like this. Now, if you look inside there, see that? It looks like a little screwdriver. You take that, go to your valve stem, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, and you remove it. Now be careful, because if you lose the center core of the valve stem, it'll go flying. So keep it on there and then carefully remove it. And for those of you wondering, so there's your valve stem core. All you're doing is you're taking this, it's got a flat spot as you can see, it just lines up in there and you just twist it. So as you hear, the air is pretty much out of this. So I'll put the valve stem back in, complete the other 3 tires. So the next step in changing your bead locks after you get all the air out is to take off the locking ring. So I went ahead, I got some sandwich baggies, and each tire, I'm gonna fill up all the bolts in here. Now, you're not supposed to use impacts when tightening these down, but I'm gonna use my impact to release it. And I'm just gonna go around real gentle. There should be really no force on these at all, and put each tire's bolts in here. If I lose one, then I'm in trouble and I have to go and buy another one. So I'll make sure you don't lose anything. So let's get that done. So all the locking ring bolts are off, and this is what your locking ring looks like. As you can see, there is a lip. So the tire bead is actually pinched between here and the rim, and that's why this is used as a clamping force. So now the next step on this is really the hardest part of the whole procedure. As you can see, the front's nice and loose, right? But the back is like your standard car tire, where it's got the bead. So your bead is right here. So now you have to break this bead. Now how are you gonna do that? Well, there's lots of ways to break it. You can buy different tools, such as a bead buster. You can go down to Harbor Freight. They have a couple different tire changing tools, either from 30 to 80 bucks. For me, I'm taking them to a tire place. They charge like $5 a tire, and they will break the bead for me. And it saves my back quite a bit of work. So let's get these loaded up. Now, what you may be wondering is, where am I gonna take it with? Well, I don't have a truck. I could throw them in my Durango, but why not use the Pioneer? I mean, honestly, what's the point of living in a state where your UTVs are street legal if you don't drive them on the street? And we're here. Get these beads broken. All right, the beads are broken. Special thanks to Todd at Goodyear Tire. We're back here. Let's get home and get these things changed out. Now it's time to unload the tires from Goodyear. Everything's unloaded, and before I go ahead with the next step, there's a couple things I forgot to mention earlier. First of all, I did measure this at 12 PSI. It was at 30.5 inches, so they run a ½ inch short. Second of all, I did go up and I did some 0 to 40 mile an hour runs. I did 3 back to back at about 84-degree temperature. So the times were 4.9, 4.8, and 4.9 on the app that I have. And no, it's not a draggy, but it's just a free app I downloaded. It's the same app I used on the Pioneer. So once I get these all mounted and balanced, we'll go back up there if it's not too hot and do the same 0 to 40 mile an hour run on the same road 3 consecutive times, and we'll give the average for that. So let's go ahead and let's get these off. Now, since the bead is broken, it's pretty easy. It's gonna reach in the back side, and you gotta do a little bit of finagling, but it's not too big of a deal. And just like that. So I've got this one off. 3 more to go. I'll set this one to the side so I can list it for sale later. So mounting your beadlocks is actually pretty easy, but there's a couple things I like to do. One is I have balancing beads. Now on the Pioneer, I went ahead and had them machine balanced, but honestly on an off-road vehicle, balancing beads seem to be better. So these are pretty easy. You just take them, there's a small bag in here, and it will break apart inside. And it comes with a new valve stem if you want to use it, the little chrome, it'll let you know it has balancing beads in. Next, I have a spray ball here with just some soapy water. So I'm gonna spray this, just the outside bead, so I can mount it. Now you saw me remove this rim from the old tires. I literally stuck my hand and pulled it out. So it's not real hard, but these tires are brand new. They do have some sidewall flex, but with this bead or rim protector, you want something just to help lubricate a little bit. And this is literally just some dish soap and water. So you're just gonna take this, kind of get on here at an angle, get one side started. And it's just like that. I bounced on it with my knee. So next thing we gotta do is put the beadlock ring back on here, and let me show you how I'm gonna do that. First step of putting this beadlock on is, well, I got a 5-gallon bucket. It's empty. The reason I have that, pick this up and just set it on here. The next thing we gotta do is line up this bead. So let me show you that up close. Before you put the locking ring on, as you can see, this is sitting down in the groove, and then it comes up and over. So you have to kind of adjust it. I won't be able to do it with one hand to get the whole thing to sit down in there. This is probably the most difficult part after breaking the bead. So let me get that done. So now everything is on there. Next thing is take your beadlock ring. Now, if you remember from my first video of doing the servicing, there is your valve stem. So come over here, there's the arrow. And now on this, you have to start cross, cross, cross. Just hand tighten these to get them all started. This sidewall is just a little bit thicker than the factory, because if you can see, it's 10 ply. So just take your time and get that done. Everything is now hand started and hand tightened. You don't want to use an impact gun like I said. So I just took my big wrench and I hand started everything. Next thing I gotta do is do the torque sequence. So if you notice, I put some blue tape here so I can tell where to go. Just a little easier to track. It's just some painter's tape. So the first torque sequence is 13 foot-pounds. So you're gonna go to crisscross. So I'm gonna go from here to here to here to here, and then I'm gonna go 1 in between, all the way around. And then it's 2 rounds of 41 foot-pounds. So let's go ahead and get that torque down. So putting air in these can be a little challenging. As you can see, I can get my finger in here. The bead isn't always set. There's a slight gap. So you gotta be a little careful. Some people will remove the valve stems. I don't. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and hook up my air hose. I'm gonna put air in and balance up and down on the tire just a little bit to get to seat. Now you may have to fill it higher than your operating pressure. So I'm gonna run these about 15 to start, and we'll play from there. But I may have to fill it to 20, 25 PSI, just to get everything to seat nice and easy. Let's try it now. Okay, so it's aired up 25 PSI. I did measure it for fun. It is exactly 34 inches. Now before I mount this on the buggy, other than removing the stickers, I got my soapy water again. And I wanna make sure I don't get any bubbles. Make sure everything's nice and seated. Now honestly, the back isn't where I'm worried about. It's this front, because this is where it's gonna leak. And if it does leak, well, you gotta start all over again. Lucky for me, no leaks in the first one, but I've got 3 more to do. So I'll get those done and I'll be right back with you. All right, it's all done, and let me tell you what, this thing looks like a beast. Now it is not settled yet, so it's probably 4 or 5 inches taller than it really is going to be. But before I show you, let me talk about some weights. So first of all, I weighed the stock rim with the beadlock ring and the bolts, and it was about 19.5 pounds. I then weighed the stock tire, which is around 32.5 to 33 pounds. Now I have about 500 miles on mine. And then I forgot to weigh the STI tires, but I did look at the shipping weight and those were 56 pounds. So to go from a 30.5 inch tall tire to a 34-inch tall tire, you are looking around a 20-pound increase, 22 and a half, somewhere in there. So it's not that big of a deal to me. The Pioneer wheel and tire combination on that is 72 pounds. On this, it's 56 plus the 19 and a half, so it's around 75.5 pounds. These are a heavier tire. Now, I don't have any issues with the Pioneer, and it's got, was it like 30 or 40 less horsepower? About 40 less horsepower, so I think we'll be fine. But let me go ahead, let's jump into it, which you guys have been waiting for, and let's look at it now. Does that not look like a beast? So before I end the video, let's go back out, let's do the time runs again, and let's talk about that. So I'm gonna do 0 to 40, same stretch road. Too high, I just mat it. That's it. I don't do any boosted launches and all that stuff. So let's go ahead and do that. So hopefully you can hear me without the wind going too much. So I just got back from the first test drive, and let me tell you, I really like it. Initial driving impressions are really good. The stiffer sidewalls with the new All Things UTV springs really just make this handle a lot better. There's still a little bit of body roll, but again, I haven't adjusted shocks. Let's talk about times, 0 to 40. I had a 5.1, a 5.0, and a 5.2. So if you round that out or take the average, it's 5.1 seconds. On the initial stock tires, my average was 4.8 and change. So really, it's less than half a second difference between the bigger tires versus the smaller tires. I didn't buy this thing to race or whatever. I bought this to go in 4-wheel. So the whole install, for those wondering, it's about 30 minutes a tire. Took me about 2 hours and 45 minutes. That was with filming, and not a big deal. The hardest part is really breaking the bead on the rear and then just getting those bead locks lined up. Other than that, I'm running 15 pounds of pressure, and I'm really happy. The speedometer is only off by about 1.5 miles. So when I'm doing 35, they'll say 36 or 37 for the GPS. So I hope you like the new wheels and tires. I sure do. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and until next time.